The rain had just stopped falling over New London, leaving the streets shining like mirrors. Neon signs flickered above the narrow alleys, painting the wet ground in colors of pink, blue, and gold. People hurried past, heads down, their coats tight around them. The city never slept, but it rarely cared. Everyone was busy chasing something, money, fame, or escape. Ethan Cole wasn't chasing anything. He was just trying to make it through another long day. He worked at a small repair shop near the transport docks, fixing drones, small hover bikes, and sometimes even alien gadgets that traders brought in. His job didn't pay much, but he loved it. Machines made sense to him. People didn't always. That evening, as he walked home, he noticed something strange. In the corner of an alley near an old food stall, someone was sitting against the wall. The figure was wrapped in a dark cloak, almost blending with the shadows. A small flicker of movement caught his attention, a trembling hand reaching out, then pulling back as footsteps passed. Ethan slowed down. Everyone else ignored her. The food stall owner didn't even look in her direction. She seemed invisible to the world. For some reason, that bothered him. He hesitated, thinking maybe he should just walk on. The city was full of people down on their luck. He couldn't help everyone, but something inside told him to stop. He stepped closer. The figure turned slightly, and for a moment the hood slipped down. Ethan froze. Her skin shimmered faintly under the neon light, not like glitter or makeup, but like living metal. It shifted between pale silver and soft violet, reflecting the light around her. Her eyes, large and bright, were a deep shade of teal, glowing faintly in the dimness. She wasn't human. Ethan realized that instantly. She looked weak, exhausted, maybe even ill. Her hands shook slightly as she held a small metal cup in her lap. Empty. Ethan glanced around. Nobody else seemed to care. He took a breath and walked over. "Hey," he said gently, "are you all right?" The woman looked up slowly. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft and clear, carrying an echo that made it sound almost musical. "I'm fine," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "Please, you should not stop. It is not safe to help strangers." Ethan smiled a little. "Well, maybe I like a bit of risk," he said. He reached into his bag and pulled out a wrapped sandwich. It was supposed to be his dinner, but he offered it to her instead. "Here, it's not much, but it's warm." The alien woman blinked at him, clearly surprised. Her hands trembled as she accepted the food. "You would give this to me?" she asked. "Sure. You look like you need it more than I do." For a long moment, she just stared at him, as if trying to understand his words. Then she nodded slightly and took a small bite. Her expression softened. It was the first real emotion he saw on her face. Ethan sat on an old crate beside her. "So," he said casually, "you from around here?" She gave a quiet laugh, the sound like wind chimes. "Not exactly," he chuckled. "Didn't think so." They sat there in silence for a while. The rain began again, soft and steady. Ethan moved closer so his jacket could shield her from the drops. She didn't move away. Instead, she looked at him curiously, as if he was the strange one. After a few minutes, she asked, "Why did you stop?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "Many passed me. No one looked." "You did? Why?" Ethan thought about it. "Because you looked like you needed help," he said simply. "That's all." Her eyes lingered on him, searching his face. "Humans are strange," she murmured. He laughed softly. "Yeah, we get that a lot." The woman finished the sandwich slowly, as if she hadn't eaten in days. Ethan noticed the faint shimmer of energy fading from her hands. Maybe she was injured. Maybe she was hiding. He didn't ask. It didn't seem polite. When she tried to stand, she stumbled. Ethan caught her before she fell. Her body felt light, almost weightless. "You're not fine," he said firmly. "Come on. You can rest at my place," she tried to protest. "No, I should not." "Look," he interrupted gently. "You can barely stand. My workshop's just down the street. You can rest there for a while. No one will bother you." For a moment she hesitated. Then finally she nodded. Ethan guided her through the narrow lanes to his small workshop, a cluttered but cozy space filled with half-built machines, blinking screens, and the faint smell of oil and metal. It wasn't much, but it was home. He helped her sit on a chair near the workbench. "I'll get you something to drink," he said, filling a cup with warm water from the dispenser. She looked around the room with quiet curiosity. Her eyes paused on the floating tool rack, the holographic blueprints projected on the wall, and the half-dismantled drone on the table. You build machines, she said softly. Yeah, Ethan said, handing her the cup. Mostly repairs, though. I'm better at fixing things than making them. That is a good skill, she said, taking a small sip. Repairing is harder than creating. You must understand both the flaw and the heart. Ethan smiled at that. Never thought about it that way. As she drank, he noticed her hands again. Her skin glowed faintly under the light, and strange patterns, like flowing circuits, appeared along her wrists. He wanted to ask, but he didn't. She looked tired, and he didn't want to push. You can rest here tonight, he said. There's a spare cot in the corner. I'll stay in the back room. The woman looked up. You trust easily, he shrugged. Maybe, but you don't seem dangerous. A faint smile touched her lips. You are either brave or foolish. Probably both, he said with a grin. She laughed again, a sound so light that it made the whole room feel brighter. Then quietly she said, Thank you, Ethan. He froze. Wait, how do you know my name? She looked at him, her teal eyes glowing softly. It is written on your tools, she said simply, pointing to his engraved wrench on the table. Ethan chuckled. Right. Forgot about that. As she settled on the cot, wrapping herself in the blanket he gave her, Ethan turned off the main lights. The soft hum of machines filled the air. He sat at his desk, pretending to check the drones, but his eyes kept drifting back to her. There was something different about her. Something regal in the way she moved, even when she was weak. Something ancient. He didn't know who she was, and maybe it didn't matter. She was someone who needed help, and he had done what anyone should. Outside, the rain fell harder, tapping against the glass. Inside, the alien woman closed her eyes, whispering something in a language Ethan didn't understand. A faint light shimmered across her skin and faded. If Ethan had known what that light meant, he might not have slept so peacefully. Because at that very moment, far beyond the stars, entire fleets were searching for her, the lost queen of the Xynathian Empire. Missing for weeks, vanished without a trace, and now, she was sleeping under the same roof as a simple human engineer, the only one who had stopped to offer kindness. The morning light crept through the dusty window of Ethan's workshop, painting soft golden lines across the floor. The city outside was already awake, air cars humming, vendors shouting, and drones buzzing between towers. Ethan stretched and rubbed his eyes. He had fallen asleep at his desk again, surrounded by scattered tools and half-finished machines. For a moment, he forgot about his unusual guest. Then he heard a faint humming sound, something calm and rhythmic, coming from the other side of the room. He turned his head and froze. The alien woman was sitting beside one of his broken drones, her delicate hands moving gracefully as she touched the metal. The drone floated a few inches off the table, glowing faintly blue. She wasn't just repairing it, she was healing it. Ethan blinked in disbelief. Wait, what are you doing? The woman looked up, her eyes bright with that strange teal glow. Your creation was injured, she said softly. I am fixing it. Ethan stood and came closer. The drone that hadn't worked for months now hovered smoothly, its sensors blinking in perfect rhythm. He checked the circuits. They weren't just repaired, they were improved. The energy core was now more efficient, the internal structure stronger. He stared at her. You just fixed this with your hands. She tilted her head slightly. It is not hard once you understand how it wishes to function. How it wishes to function, he repeated, half amused. Machines don't wish for anything. Everything that is made has purpose, she said calmly. Even if the maker forgets it, Ethan smiled faintly, amazed. You sound like my old mentor. She looked at him curiously. Was he wise? He was, Ethan said, his tone softening. He taught me that fixing machines isn't about metal and wires. It's about understanding what broke it in the first place. The alien woman smiled. Then your mentor was right. For a moment there was peaceful silence between them. The soft hum of the drone filled the air, glowing brighter before gently landing on the table. Ethan finally spoke again. You know, I never got your name, the woman hesitated. She looked down, fingers tightening slightly around the edge of her cloak. Names have power, she said quietly, but you may call me Lura. Lura, Ethan repeated. That's a nice name. She gave a small smile, though her eyes seemed distant, like she was hiding something behind them. Later that morning, Ethan cooked breakfast, just some simple toast and tea. He noticed that Lura examined every small detail of his world with fascination. The steam rising from the kettle, the soft hiss of the toaster, even the blinking lights from his repair tools, everything seemed to catch her attention. "You really don't look like you're from around here," he said jokingly. Lura smiled faintly. "No, my home is far. Very far. How far?" he asked, half curious, half teasing. She looked at him, her gaze deep and almost sad. "Farther than your mind can yet imagine," he laughed softly. "You say that like a mystery. Perhaps it is," she said gently. When Ethan left to buy parts for his repairs, he told her to stay inside and rest. But Lura, curious as ever, wandered around the small workshop. She touched the tools, studied the holographic maps on the wall, and watched recordings of Ethan's old projects. Her fingers glided over the machines as if she could feel their stories. When she found a broken communicator, a small disc-like device, she smiled. It was old, covered in dust. She lifted it and whispered something in her language. The disc lit up, projecting a small blue light into the air. "Still alive," she murmured. "You humans may be slow, but your hearts of creation are pure." The communicator suddenly crackled. A faint signal reached out into the sky, a wave that vanished beyond Earth's orbit. Lura frowned and quickly deactivated it. For a second, her calm face looked worried. She whispered to herself, "I must not be found yet." When Ethan returned, he noticed her sitting quietly near the workbench again, but something about her seemed different, tense, alert. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "Everything is fine." Ethan didn't press her. He placed the small bag of parts on the table and got back to work. But while he soldered a circuit, he noticed something odd, a strange shimmer in the air near the window like static. He frowned. "You see that?" he asked. Lura turned sharply. Her teal eyes flashed for a second. "Stay back," she said firmly. Before Ethan could ask why, a beam of light shot through the shimmer and formed a tiny hovering probe. It scanned the room, emitting soft mechanical clicks. Ethan froze. "Is that one of yours?" Lura's expression hardened. "No, it is looking for me." She raised her hand and a wave of gentle blue light rippled from her fingertips. The probe flickered, sparked, and fell to the ground lifeless. Ethan stepped back, stunned. "What was that?" he asked. "A search unit," she said quietly. "A machine of my people. It should not be here." "Your people?" Ethan repeated. "You mean aliens?" She looked directly at him. "You have already seen that I am not human." "Well, yeah," he said slowly, "but I didn't think others would be looking for you." "They are," she admitted. "And if they find me, they will not be kind." Ethan frowned. "Are you a criminal?" Lura's eyes widened in surprise. "No, not a criminal." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I am someone who ran away from a life I did not choose." Ethan studied her face. There was no anger there, no lie, and only sadness. "You ran away," he said softly. "From where?" "From a world where every breath is watched," she said. "Where duty is chosen before heart." Her words hung in the air. Ethan didn't understand everything, but he understood the feeling of being trapped. He had seen enough people in New London live under unfair systems, just machines in someone else's plan. He sighed. "Well, if they're looking for you, you should stay hidden. I can help you. My workshop's small but safe." Lura looked at him with gratitude. "You would risk that for me?" He shrugged. "You helped fix my drone. I'd say we're even." Her lips curved into a small smile. "You are different, Ethan Cole," he grinned. "I get that a lot." As the day passed, Ethan taught Lura how to use some of his human tools. She learned quickly and faster than he expected. She adjusted drone rotors, realigned energy lines, and even improved one of his old machines by combining her technology with his. "You're incredible," Ethan said, watching as one of the drones floated perfectly above her hand. Lura laughed softly. "You humans build with passion. You only need guidance, not power." Ethan scratched his head. "You talk like a teacher." She tilted her head. "Maybe I am." But deep inside, she wondered if she had already revealed too much. Her time on Earth was supposed to be quiet. She had escaped her empire, disguised herself as a beggar, and chosen to walk among ordinary life to see truth in its simplest form. And now this human, this kind, honest, fearless man, had already changed the course of her journey. That night, as Ethan closed the shop's shutters, a shadow passed over the city. Unseen, but powerful. High above the atmosphere, enormous ships cloaked in invisibility orbited Earth. Inside one of them, alien voices spoke urgently. Signal trace located. Sector 9, Lower New London. She is there. Prepare capture team. Back on Earth, Lura suddenly looked up, her teal eyes glowing brighter. She felt the pull, the faint signal from the stars calling her name. She whispered under her breath, "They have found me." Ethan, noticing her sudden fear, asked, "What's wrong?" She turned to him, calm but serious. "Ethan, if anything happens, promise me you will not follow." He frowned. "What are you talking about? What's going to happen?" Before she could answer, the ground trembled slightly, a pulse of energy, faint but real. She looked toward the sky. "They are coming," she said quietly. Ethan's heart raced. "Who?" Laura looked back at him, and for the first time she looked truly royal. Her posture straightened. Her eyes glowed like twin stars, and her voice carried strength. "My people," she said softly. "The ones who would drag me home, no matter the cost." Ethan stared at her in shock. The truth was beginning to form in his mind, but he couldn't yet believe it. Who was she really? The night in New London was strangely quiet. The sky above the city shimmered faintly as if stars were watching. Ethan didn't notice it at first. He was busy checking his workshop doors and power systems, but Lura could feel it. A deep vibration echoed through her mind like the whisper of 1,000 distant voices. "They are close," she murmured, standing by the window. Ethan turned. "Who's close?" "My people," she said softly. "They have traced my signal. I should have known the communicator would betray me." Ethan frowned. "You mean that little round thing you fixed earlier?" She nodded. "It sent out a wave stronger than I thought. Now the hunters know where I am." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Okay, so we leave, right? Hide somewhere?" Lura's gaze went distant. "It will not matter. Their ships are already above us. They will not stop." Outside, a low hum filled the air. The lights in the workshop flickered. Ethan looked up through the skylight and froze. A faint glowing shape was moving in the cloud, enormous, silent, and shimmering like liquid silver. "Is that?" he began. "Yes," Lura whispered. "A Zenathian seeker ship." "They come for me." Ethan's mind raced. "So what happens if they find you?" "They will take me back," she said. "And they will erase all who helped me." Ethan felt a cold chill run down his spine. "Erase?" She looked away. "It is the law. No one must know the Queen walks among common stars." "Queen," he repeated, stunned. "You're a queen?" She closed her eyes. "Yes, I am Allura of Zenathia, heir of the celestial throne." For a long moment, Ethan could only stare. The beggar he'd fed, the woman who fixed his drone, the quiet stranger who had slept under his roof, was a queen from another world. It didn't seem real. "You're kidding," he said weakly. "I wish I were," she said sadly. Ethan walked back and forth, trying to process what he'd just heard. "So you're a queen and your people are coming to take you back. Why run away?" "Because my council chose my future without asking me," she said quietly. "They wanted to bind me to a ruler from another galaxy. A cold alliance, not a union of hearts. I refused. I wanted to see the universe myself. To find truth and kindness, not power." She looked at him, her expression soft. "That is why I came here. To a small world forgotten by empires." Ethan rubbed his face. "And now your people are going to destroy my city because I gave you a sandwich." Lura smiled faintly. "I will not allow that." "Good," Ethan said quickly. "Because I kinda like this city." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Ethan Cole, you have shown me something no starborn noble ever did. Humanity." He frowned. "Yeah, well, humanity's not going to help if they blow up my roof." Lura's lips curved into a tiny smile. "Then we must make sure they cannot find me easily." Ethan rushed to his workbench. "Okay, I don't know what kind of tracking tech they use, but if it's electronic, maybe I can jam it." She tilted her head. "You have such faith in your small machines." "Hey," Ethan said, pulling wires and tools out. "These small machines kept New London running during the blackout of 41. Don't underestimate them." He connected power cells, attached circuits, and typed rapidly into his old control panel. The screen flickered with blue code. Lura watched, amazed at his focus. He was clumsy compared to Zenathian engineers, but his mind worked with pure instinct, guided not by rules but by courage. "What are you building?" she asked. An electromagnetic field disruptor, Ethan said. If I can make enough noise in their sensors, they won't get a clean lock on your position. He grinned. At least that's the plan. Lura placed a hand over the machine, her touch making the metal glow faintly. Allow me. In an instant, the circuits rearranged themselves, glowing brighter and smoother. The device began to hum softly, far more stable than before. Ethan blinked. You just upgraded my tech. I added balance, she said. You had power, but not harmony. He laughed. Well, we make a good team. Her eyes softened. Yes, we do. Moments later, a loud rumble shook the air. The ground trembled. Outside, blue beams of light scanned the streets, cutting through the fog like searchlights. The Xynathian seekers had arrived. Ethan peeked through the window. 3 large drones hovered above the rooftops, each the size of a car, scanning for life forms. Their metallic bodies pulsed with energy, and every few seconds a low hum vibrated through the walls. They're searching every building, he whispered. Lura's voice was calm. Then we must be invisible. Ethan flipped the switch on the disruptor. The workshop lights flickered and went dark. For a few tense seconds, the entire area fell into silence. Outside, one of the drones paused, its sensors blinking in confusion. The others turned, scanning wildly. Ethan held his breath. The humming grew louder, then slowly drifted away. They're moving, he whispered. Lura nodded. Your idea worked. He smiled with relief. See? Small machines, big results. But then, before they could relax, a sharp alarm echoed from the sky. A new beam of light struck the ground just outside the workshop. The wall shook violently, tools fell and sparks flew. Ethan fell backward, coughing in the dust. They found us, he shouted. Lura stood tall, her cloak glowing faintly. No, they found me. The doors burst open. A squad of tall, armored aliens marched in, their armor gleaming silver and blue, their helmets shaped like crowns of glass. Each one carried a glowing staff that hummed with power. By command of the Xynathian High Council, the leader announced, You are to surrender, my queen. Ethan's jaw dropped. They just called you queen out loud in my workshop. Lura's voice was steady. I will not return. It is not your choice, the soldier said. Your empire demands it. Ethan stepped forward. Hey, you can't just... One of the guards raised a hand and a pulse of energy threw Ethan backward into the wall. He gasped but didn't fall. Instead, he pushed himself up, angry. Lura turned sharply. Do not harm him. The soldiers hesitated. He is an Earth native, Majesty, irrelevant. Her eyes blazed. He is not irrelevant. For the first time, her royal power fully awakened. Light surged from her skin, wrapping the room in radiant waves. The soldiers stumbled back, shielding their eyes. Lura lifted one hand and their weapons froze midair, disarmed by invisible force. Leave this world, she commanded, her voice echoing with both authority and sorrow. I am not your prisoner. The leader bowed his head slightly. You are our queen. You belong to Xynathia. I belong to my heart, she said softly. Ethan watched in awe. The quiet, kind woman he had helped now stood like a being of light, her presence filling the room. He couldn't understand everything happening, but he knew one thing. She didn't deserve to be dragged away. He grabbed one of his drones and whispered, Come on, little guy. One last flight. The drone shot upward, hitting the ceiling and exploding in a bright flash. The soldiers stumbled, momentarily blinded. Lura turned to Ethan, shocked. What are you doing? Buying you time. He yelled, Go! She hesitated. I cannot leave you. Yes, you can, he said firmly. You said you wanted to see truth and kindness. Well, this is it. Go. Her eyes glistened. For a brief moment, their gazes met. Human and queen, 2 worlds in one heartbeat. Then, reluctantly, she ran toward the back exit. Ethan fought to hold off the soldiers with makeshift defenses, metal barriers, drone parts, anything he could find. Sparks flew, smoke filled the air. One of his machines overloaded, creating a shockwave that sent the guards crashing into the walls. Outside, Lura looked back once. Ethan stood at the doorway, bruised but defiant. Go! He shouted again. She nodded. Her cloak shimmered, and she vanished in a flash of blue light, teleporting away just as the ships above began to descend. Minutes later, the soldiers regrouped. The leader stood in the wrecked workshop, scanning the area. She has escaped. Another soldier looked at Ethan, unconscious on the floor. The human? Leave him, the leader said. He is of no importance. But if they had looked closer, they would have seen a faint trace of blue light on Ethan's hand. the same light that glowed from the Queen herself. Far above Earth, the Xenathian fleet spread across the sky, searching again. The hunt was not over. And in the shadows of a deserted street, Queen Allura looked up at the stars, whispering, "Forgive me, Ethan, but your courage will not be forgotten." The wreckage of Ethan's workshop smelled of burnt circuits and melted metal. Smoke curled lazily from broken drones and sparks flickered in the shadows. He sat against a wall, bruised and tired, his chest rising and falling quickly from adrenaline. For a moment he wondered if he had just dreamed the events. The soldiers, the Queen, the flashes of blue light. But the faint glow lingering on his hands reminded him it was real. Above, in orbit, Xenathian seeker ships scanned the city. The Queen had escaped, but they were closing in. Ethan's actions had bought her only minutes. Minutes that could change everything. He gritted his teeth. He had no choice but to act. He stood slowly, ignoring the soreness in his body. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "Let's see if we can make this a little harder for them." Ethan had one advantage the Empire did not understand: Earth ingenuity. They relied on strength, numbers, and technology far advanced beyond his own, but he had thinking outside the box. That could change everything. He looked around the ruined workshop. Broken drone parts, wires, and old tools littered the floor. He picked up a small generator and started connecting it to a discarded hover bike, rigging it to create a temporary energy field. Sparks flew, wires sizzled, and the makeshift device hummed with power. "What are you doing?" Laura's voice echoed suddenly from the small comm link he had given her before she teleported away. "Buying time," Ethan shouted. "The Empire's coming. I'm not letting them take you back easily." From somewhere above, the faint hum of seeker ships grew louder. He could see shadows moving in the clouds, massive forms that blocked the moonlight. Each one pulsed with alien energy, scanning for life signals. Ethan's hands shook as he worked, but he kept moving, connecting wires, redirecting power, and improvising defenses. "You are reckless," Laura said softly through the comm. "Do you not fear them?" "I fear nothing that moves me to act," he replied firmly. "I may be human, but I have something your Empire cannot understand, and heart." There was silence on the line. Then Laura spoke, her voice filled with awe. "I see that, and it is a rare gift." The first drone descended through the city, its sensors glowing brightly. Ethan activated his makeshift device. A pulse of electromagnetic energy spread across the street, creating interference that made the drone stumble and hover erratically. Sparks flew from its engines as it struggled to regain stability. Ethan grinned. "Not so perfect now, huh?" Through the comm, Laura laughed softly. "I underestimated your courage, Ethan Cole." He ignored the compliment, focusing on the next wave of attackers. Another seeker ship approached, larger and faster. Ethan quickly attached wires to old neon signs across the street. When he triggered the system, electrical energy surged, forming a barrier of light and sparks. The ship wobbled in the air, sensors scrambled, and it retreated momentarily. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no weapons comparable to the Xenathians, but his inventions worked. He was holding them off. Against all odds, a single human had slowed an entire empire. Laura watched from her hiding spot, astonished. "How can one human resist so much?" she whispered. "Because he has no fear of the impossible," said a soft voice in her mind. It was not Ethan. It was something within her. Her own royal instinct recognized it. Humanity, in its simplicity, could sometimes achieve what empires could not. Meanwhile, the ground shook again as more drones landed. Ethan ran between his makeshift barricades, throwing wires, redirecting energy, and using the environment to his advantage. He caused a chain reaction with old fuel canisters and discharged batteries, forcing several drones to crash into the streets. One of the Xenathian soldiers advanced toward him. Ethan picked up a broken metal pipe and swung it, aiming for the energy pack controlling the drone nearby. Sparks flew as he struck. The drone faltered, then exploded in a small, controlled blast that knocked the alien soldier backward. Ethan's chest heaved. He was tired, bruised, and bleeding, but he kept moving. Every move, every action was not just survival. It was protection for the woman who had trusted him. The queen of a distant galaxy, hiding on a planet that seemed insignificant in the stars. Yet here she was, alive because of one human's courage. Above the city, Laura used her own powers to assist silently. She disrupted the Seeker's sensors, sending them temporary false readings, giving Ethan a chance to manipulate the environment. She watched him closely, pride swelling in her chest. No nobleman, no trained soldier, no strategist in her empire had ever risked so much with so little. His courage was pure, raw and uncalculated. He fights not for glory, she whispered. He fights for what is right. The leader of the Xynathian squad approached Ethan directly, towering over him. Ethan's arms shook as he faced the armored figure. "Leave now," he shouted. "This is Earth. You cannot take her." The alien laughed, a cold metallic sound. "You are weak, human. We are the Xynathian Empire. She is our queen. You cannot stop us." Ethan's eyes burned with determination. "Maybe not, but I can delay you. I can protect her, and that is enough." He triggered another device in a combination of old drone engines and magnetic fields. The air around the soldiers crackled violently. Their weapons malfunctioned. Sparks flew from their armor. The humans and machines around them collided, chaos spreading across the streets. Lura finally decided to act. She materialized from her hiding spot, standing behind the leader. Light surged from her hands, creating an energy shield around Ethan. The soldiers froze, sensing the power she emanated. She looked at Ethan. "Go," she commanded. "I'm not leaving you," he replied. "You must," she said firmly. "I will not be caught because of you. I cannot let them take you too." He hesitated. Then, seeing the calm, determined look in her eyes, he understood. He couldn't fight alone forever. His role was to protect her until she could escape. Together they moved. Lura used her powers to shield them from the Xynathians' attacks, while Ethan continued to improvise defenses, slowing the enemy. Sparks flew, energy crackled, and debris scattered across the street. The scene was chaotic, violent, yet somehow filled with human ingenuity and alien grace. They reached a narrow alley, hidden from the main street. Lura paused, whispering an incantation in her alien tongue. A glowing portal appeared in front of them. Its edges shimmered with light, strong enough to transport them beyond the city, beyond the Empire's reach, at least for now. Ethan looked at the portal. Is this safe?" She smiled faintly. "It is the only way. You have done enough here," he swallowed. "I hope I see you again." "You will," she said. Her teal eyes glowed. "Your courage has earned my trust, and perhaps more." Ethan stepped through the portal, feeling a sudden rush of wind, light, and weightlessness. Behind him, the sounds of the city faded, replaced by the silence of space. Lura followed, her cloak shimmering like liquid silver. They emerged aboard a small alien vessel, hidden from view by the city above. Ethan looked around. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. Smooth, organic curves of metal, panels that glowed with energy, and a quiet hum that felt alive. Lura turned to him, her eyes softening. "You have done what no Xynathian soldier could, protect me," she said. "Your courage, your heart, it is extraordinary." Ethan shook his head, trying to catch his breath. "I didn't do it for glory. I did it because I could not do nothing," she smiled. "Then you are human, truly human, and that is why you are remarkable." He laughed softly. "Well, I guess being remarkable has its perks." For the first time, the stars outside the ship seemed closer. Ethan realized that a simple human, small and ordinary in a city of millions, had just defied an empire, and in doing so he had earned the respect and maybe even the friendship of a galactic queen. Lura stepped closer. "There is much to explain, Ethan Cole, but know this, you have changed the course of not just your life, but the fate of mine." Ethan smiled. "Then let's not waste time." And so aboard a ship from a distant galaxy, two unlikely allies prepared for the next challenge. One a queen born of stars, the other a human born of Earth. Together, ready to face an empire that underestimated the power of courage, ingenuity, and a simple act of kindness. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the window of the small alien vessel. Ethan stood quietly, his hands folded behind his back, gazing at the bright constellations. Space had always fascinated him, but seeing it now, traveling among the stars with a real queen, made it feel almost magical. Lura, standing beside him, watched the lights of distant galaxies shimmer. Her cloak glowed faintly, reflecting her quiet thoughts. She had faced empires, councils, and armies, but never someone like Ethan. "You know," Ethan said softly, "I never thought I'd be up here, riding a spaceship with an alien queen." Life has a funny way of surprising you. Lura smiled, a warm and gentle expression. And yet it was your choices that brought you here. You chose kindness. You chose courage. You chose to act when others would have done nothing. Ethan shrugged. I didn't do it for praise, I just couldn't leave you alone. It felt wrong, her eyes glimmered. And that is why you are remarkable. You have the heart of humanity, Ethan Cole. You see worth not in titles or power, but in action and intention. He looked down, embarrassed. Well, I just tried to survive, honestly. Lura laughed softly. The sound carried a musical tone, soft and calming, echoing lightly across the room. Survival alone does not define courage. The humans of your world do not understand the power of small deeds. You, however, have shown it. The ship hummed quietly as they traveled further from Earth. Lura had set the ship's course for a hidden system outside the reach of the Zenathian Empire. She needed time to think, to plan, and most importantly, to decide. For days, Ethan helped repair and maintain the vessel's systems. He had become her companion, her friend, and in small ways her teacher of human ingenuity. Lura watched him in silence sometimes, amazed that such a small, ordinary being could possess such courage and strength. Finally, one evening, as the ship glided past a cluster of violet nebulae, Lura spoke. Ethan, she said softly, there is something I must tell you. He looked up from a small drone he was repairing. Yes? You have seen only part of my life, she continued. I am a queen, yes, but also a being of duty. My people expect me to follow the rules of my empire, yet you have shown me a world I never knew. A world where courage, kindness, and heart matter more than laws or titles. Ethan placed the drone aside, curiosity rising. And, Lura's eyes softened. And now I must make a choice. Not as a queen, but as someone who wishes to live freely. I must decide. If I can trust my heart, Ethan swallowed. You mean, about me? She looked at him directly. Yes, you are human. Ordinary in your world, yet extraordinary in mine. And I have learned that strength is not measured by fleets or armies, but by the courage to act when the odds are impossible. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest he had never experienced. I don't know what to say. You do not need to say anything, she replied. Actions have already spoken. You chose to protect me even when your life was in danger. That is the language of trust and love. Days passed. The Zenathian Empire continued to search, but the hidden system remained untouched, shielded from sensors. Lura spent her time teaching Ethan about the stars, her empire, and the mysteries of space. He listened, fascinated, and often asked questions about her world. You humans are very curious, Lura said one evening, as they watched a comet streak across the void. Curiosity keeps us alive, Ethan replied. It makes us try things others think are impossible, like helping a stranger who is really a queen. He laughed lightly. She looked at him, smiling softly. And sometimes that curiosity changes the course of a galaxy. Ethan blushed. I'm just me. I didn't think I was changing anything. You have changed much, she said quietly. For my life, for the Empire, and perhaps for your own world one day. Then came the moment of truth. Lura had set a course for the planet where she had hidden her small fleet of loyal allies. She stood on the observation deck looking at the stars, her expression calm but resolute. Ethan joined her, heart pounding. Are you ready? He asked softly. Yes, she replied. I have made my choice. Ethan's eyes widened. Choice? Lura turned to him. I could return to my empire. I could obey the council, marry as they wish and live under their rules. Or I could follow my heart, and my heart has chosen. It has chosen you, Ethan Cole. Not for what you are, but for who you are. Ethan's breath caught. Me? Yes, she said, her eyes glowing softly. You are human, simple, courageous, kind, and you have shown me a truth I never knew. That greatness is not measured by titles, but by deeds. By heart. By love. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes. He had never imagined a life like this. I don't know what to say. You do not need to say anything, Lura said gently. I ask only that you walk with me as a partner, as a friend, and if your heart allows. As more. Ethan swallowed hard. Lura, yes. I'll walk with you. I'll do whatever it takes. You will not only walk, she said softly, taking his hand. You will stand by me. Together we will face the Empire, the stars, and whatever comes next. Not because we must, but because we choose it. Ethan's chest filled with pride and joy. The simple human who had once given a sandwich to a beggar had now been chosen by a galactic queen. The impossible had become reality. Word spread quickly within the Xynathian Empire. Fleet commanders were shocked when Lura declared her choice. A human from a distant, insignificant planet would stand beside her. Some protested, some whispered, but none could deny her authority. Humans? One council member demanded. Why him? Because he is worthy, Lura replied firmly. Not because of power, not because of lineage, but because he is brave, kind, and true. The council fell silent. They had never encountered someone like Ethan, a being from a small planet with courage larger than entire fleets. His actions had proven that human ingenuity, heart, and determination could stand against even the mightiest empire. Back aboard the ship, Lura and Ethan prepared for their first journey together. The vessel glided past planets, nebulae, and stars, each more beautiful than the last. Lura showed him the wonders of her galaxy: glowing forests, oceans that reflected multiple moons, cities carved into the sides of asteroids. Ethan's eyes shone with wonder, but more than the sights. He treasured the moments beside her: laughter, conversation, quiet reflection, and shared courage. You know, Ethan said one night, I never thought helping someone could lead to. This, Lura smiled. Kindness is the beginning of everything. One small act can ripple across galaxies. He nodded. Then I guess my tiny act of helping you changed the course of a lot of things. Yes, she said softly, taking his hand. For both our worlds. Months passed. The Xynathian Empire eventually accepted the choice of their queen, realizing that her wisdom was beyond their understanding. Earth remained safe, watched quietly by Lura and her allies, and humanity remained mostly unaware of the galaxy-altering events that had taken place. Ethan continued to explore the stars with Lura, learning the ways of her people while sharing the ingenuity of his own world. Together they bridged the gap between galaxies, proving that courage, kindness, and heart could overcome even the greatest empires. And in a quiet moment, as they watched a comet streak past the ship, Lura whispered, Thank you, Ethan Cole, for seeing me not as a queen, but as a being who needed someone to believe in her. Ethan smiled. And thank you for showing me that even small humans can make a huge difference. Together, they looked toward the endless stars, knowing that the universe was vast, the challenges many, but their courage and partnership stronger than any empire. And so, from one small act of kindness in a quiet alley on Earth, the galaxy learned a lesson. Sometimes the smallest humans can change the fate of worlds, and even queens may choose their hearts over empires.